Joining us now from McCain headquarters is the campaign's political director, Mike Duhaime. Mike, thanks for joining us. Is that the real John McCain, the one you heard today in that speech?
It is the real John McCain. I think the John McCain is the same John McCain you heard, throughout this election, throughout the primary, throughout his whole life. He's somebody who has always fought hard for his country, and I think when he's in a position of an underdog, I think sometimes he's put in a position to surprise people. So I feel good about that.
Well, you've got some troubling national polls now. If you look at Newsweek, it's Obama up by 11. In the Washington Post ABC poll, it's Obama up by 10. Those are the national numbers. Of course, when we deal with battleground states, he is also behind in a number of battleground states. And you see him trying to defend Virginia, and not on the air, at least in this part of Virginia, not on the air all weekend. We've been watching a heavy dose of Obama ads just regionally in our local TV and not seeing a counterparty. Are you guys having money troubles now?
We're not having money troubles. The federal government has given us the grant. Every candidate since Watergate has taken the federal grant, except for Barack Obama. Barack Obama promised to take the grant. He went back on his word on that when it seemed politically expedient. Doesn't seem like anyone's called him on it. So he gets a large financial advantage for that, both on television and in other aspects of the campaign. We have enough money to get our message out. No doubt Barack Obama has more money because of that decision that he made. But I'm confident in terms of the amount of money we have. In terms of the polls, there are other polls that show this as a 4 or 5 point race as well. This is a very close race. I think John McCain was down by 12 to 15 points about this far out from the New Hampshire primary. So there's no doubt there is a lot of time left in this election, and we feel confident that our path to victory is a good one.
Back on September 10th, he was ahead. Let's talk for a second about the mixed tone that we've seen, on again, off again. Let me play you a little bit of sound of John McCain only yesterday in Virginia.
We're going to be spending a lot of time, and after I whip his, you know what, in this debate, we're going to be going out 24/7. And I want to emphasize again, I respect Senator Obama. We will conduct a respectful race, and we will make sure that everybody else does too.
There's been a lot of talk about toing and throwing and froing, and whether or not people in the campaign, including the candidate themselves. You've got the Virginia Republican state chair actually comparing Barack Obama to Osama bin Laden, saying, well, both were connected to people who bombed the Pentagon. Is there any place for that in this campaign? And, you know, is the candidate doing enough to draw the line? We saw what he said in Minnesota on Friday, but are the people at the leadership of the campaign doing enough to draw the line on this?
I believe we are. We cannot take responsibility for every word that is said by every volunteer around the country. I think you saw Senator McCain's comments last week. I think they speak for themselves in terms of respectful disagreements between candidates. There are big issues at stake, but I also think there's probably undue scrutiny or more scrutiny on this campaign than there is on the Obama campaign. I think if you would see some of the protests that were out for Governor Palin last week in Philadelphia, that were just completely over the line in terms of some of the things that were said that were quite frankly disgusting. And they were done by the Obama campaign, or they're certainly their supporters. I just heard a report on National Public Radio last week where you have Obama campaign supporters and volunteers explicitly talking about the candidate's, John McCain's medical history and his age. I think some of the things that they've done on that campaign are way beyond the pale. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of coverage only goes one way in this campaign. That's okay. We'll deal with it. But I do think that this is something that goes both ways. Certainly the Obama campaign, with their enormous financial advantage, have run a multitude more negative ads than the McCain campaign has.
Well,
but,
not according
that's
to
understandable. It's a tough business.
Acknowledging that there has been negativity on both sides, according to the University of Wisconsin Advertising Project, in the last couple of weeks, it's been 100% negative from the McCain campaign and only 34% negative advertising, at least from the Obama campaign. But let me ask you about William Kristol, who was a Republican, former chief of staff to Dan Quayle in the vice president's office. He wrote in the New York Times today, what McCain needs to do is junk the whole thing and start over and shut down the rapid responses, end the frantic emails, bench the spinning surrogates, stop putting up new TV and internet ads every minute. In fact, pull all the ads. They're doing no good anyway. Use that money for televised town halls and half-hour addresses in prime time and let McCain go back to what he's been good at in the past, running as a cheerful, open, and accessible candidate. There were a lot of mixed signals, I got to tell you, Mike, this weekend, where he's going to come out with a new plan. You had some of your top surrogates on Sunday morning television, prime time for these kind of dialogues, saying that there were going to be new economic proposals, then debate most likely all day in headquarters, and then late last night decisions not to do that and to come out with this other speech. Is there a lot of confusion right now within the campaign leadership?
No, there's not, actually, and I think many of the reports you saw this morning were factually inaccurate, and I think, you know, oftentimes the media like to take a factually, or not like, but unfortunately take a factually inaccurate article by one source and then start spreading around as if it's the truth.
It was not the media. It was a lot of guidance from top officials, Mike.
I think you're looking at the guidance from top officials, and then you're playing that against factually inaccurate news articles on that. In terms of, you know, some of the advice or negative advice that comes from people who are on the outside looking in, this is a tough business. We're in the arena. We're doing what we think is right to win this election. John McCain is the right candidate. I think the American people will make that judgment come election day. In terms of the outside criticism, you know, that's fine. That goes with the territory.
The outside criticism is coming from Republican state chairmen, from Tommy Thompson, from others. These Republicans are now worried about down-ballot races and about the top of the ticket not being able to protect some of these congressional members as well.
It's okay for folks to be worried. I mean, this is what happens when there are some polls that show us down. We understand that. There's some some hand-wringing that goes around. We understand that. Look, this has been somehow in a campaign where the right track, wrong track of the country was in the 20s. You had historically low approval ratings for the Republican Party. We were ahead in this race about a month ago. Then you had a collapse of the economic collapse like we haven't seen in 80 years in this country, and our poll numbers went down. That is not to be, that is understandable in terms of what happens with a campaign. We've got plenty of time to make this back up. I'm very confident we'll do that. We have a clear path to victory in terms of the states that we need to win, and it's understandable when the stock market loses thousands of points over a few weeks. It's understandable that the person who is running for the same party of the president is going to take a bit of a hit in the polls. The fact is, Barack Obama's got an incredible amount of money. He's incredibly personally popular. They have an incredible wind at their sails, yet they are unable to put this campaign away. He's under 50 in most polls, especially in battleground states. It's much closer than some of the external polls would have you believe. We have a clear path to victory on this, and I think right now, look at it from the other perspective. Look at the financial advantage. Look at all the things he has going for him. Unfortunately, he cannot put this away, and the reason is John McCain is the right person who can get independents and conservative Democrats to switch over.
I will certainly grant you that it is a lot closer than the polls, and that he has an enormous financial advantage, and that you are much more competitive than a lot of people would have you believe. Let me ask you this, though. You've had this economic crisis, and it's clear that your numbers have come down as the economic crisis has deteriorated, and as this has just taken you down with it because of whatever the association is with the party in power. Given that, why not come out with an economically focused speech today? Why the strategy to do what you did today rather than, you know, focus like a laser beam, as Bill Clinton used to say in '92, on the economy?
I think Senator McCain has talked an awful lot about the economy. He's done it throughout this crisis. I think he's actually taken a much more active role than Senator Obama in this crisis. Like a lot of things with Senator Obama, I think it was politically expedient to actually just stand back and not actually do much during this crisis. Just kind of stand back and watch what happens. And Senator McCain tried to do the opposite. He tried to get involved with this and tried to get involved in terms of the passage of the package. And I think ultimately that is going to benefit us, because what people want are leaders and people who take tough stands, even though sometimes they may be unpopular.
All right, Mike Duhaime, well, you've certainly defined the John McCain of taking tough stands that can be unpopular, and we saw it in the speech today, and we look forward to seeing him in the debate on Wednesday night. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And coming up.